Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about what are the best self-defense guns for women. We're going to break this down to two categories, inside the home and outside of the home. The information that I'm presenting to everybody here is based on my 12 years as a full-time firearms instructor. In that time, I have traveled to different gun ranges all over the Northeast, and I have trained thousands of women. Okay, now most of these women have never shot a gun before, so at the point where I'm training them, they're being trained for the very first time. And basically, I have seen which guns they learn the quickest, right? Which guns they're able to shoot the best, and which guns they're able to shoot best under stressful conditions. And one of the things that I do when I train people is I create stressful conditions, right? Because that is the type of situation that you would normally be using a gun in a self-defense type of situation. So in stressful conditions, you want to be able to use the easiest possible gun that you can possibly use. Okay, now, although this video is geared towards women, the same thing applies to men. Okay, so the same guns that work for women are also going to work for men, but we're gonna basically focus on women for this video. So the best gun for women is an AR-15. Okay, without a question, absolutely 100%. This is the gun that women shoot the easiest. Okay, and I'm going to prove it to you guys. Okay, I'm going to prove it to you guys right now. Okay, by shooting that gun one-handed. Okay, before I get into the one-handed shooting, let me say this. First of all, with that gun, the more parts of your body that you have on the gun, the easier it is to control. Okay, so with the AR-15, normally when I hold this gun, I got one hand up here, one hand over here. I'm pulling this into my chest, and I got my face on the gun. So I got 4 parts of my body on the gun, and I'm leaning into it. When the gun recoils, it's not recoiling into my arms, it's recoiling directly into my body. Okay, so all the recoil is going into my chest over there, as opposed to, let's say, a handgun. Any handgun, you only got 2 points of contact on the gun, and basically when you're pushing into this gun over here, you're pushing into it with your arms, not your body. Now you're trying to get as much of your weight behind the gun as possible, right? But that force is going to come up through your arms, as opposed to the rifle, okay, where that force is going to come from the gun straight into my chest. My arms are just guiding the gun, basically. Okay, so one of the benefits of an AR is the fact that my hands are further apart. You know? Because my hands are further apart, I have a better sense of where the gun is pointed. So when I pick up this gun, basically I take my hand over here, and I just throw that underneath the thing I want to shoot. And just by putting my arm underneath it and my face on the gun, my dot's on the target. Okay. With the handgun, right, because your hands are closer together, what I find with new shooters is when they extend, most of the time they're pointing the gun down or up. Because their hands are closer together, they don't have a good sense of where the gun is oriented. So it takes a lot more training to be able to come out and present the gun level and straight every time. Okay, so that takes more training. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate for everyone here why the AR-15 is a much easier gun to shoot. The way I'm going to do that is, instead of holding the gun two-handed and shooting it, I'm going to hold it one-handed and shoot it. Okay, and like I said, even though I'm holding the gun one-handed, that recoil is coming straight back into my chest. I am not feeling it through my arm. So basically, this shoots the .556 caliber. Okay, I'm going to be shooting at those rims down there. Again, actually, let me do it this way, right? So I'm going to do it in this direction so you guys can see me shoot the gun. And what you're looking for is the muzzle rise. Look at the barrel here to see if it's lifting up when I shoot the gun, okay? You know, is it staying there, or is it going up and down every time, right? If the gun's going up and down, that means I'm having a difficult time controlling it, okay? So remember, basically this is just, this is just leaning against my body right now, okay? Okay? So even when I start shooting fast, that gun barely moves. Let me do this now. Now this is an AR that shoots 9mm ammunition, okay? We're gonna do the same thing over here. I'm gonna do it in that direction so you guys get a different view. Again, you're looking at the barrel. You're looking to see if it rises, right? Or am I able to control this? All right. So, as you guys probably saw, that barrel was probably not rising very much. Very easy to control, okay? Even shooting this one-handed. Let's do the pistol now. Same thing. You're looking at the barrel to see how much this moves. So as you saw, this is probably moving about a little bit more. Now what I'm going to do now, this is a Glock 17. I'm going to use a Glock 43 now, which is even smaller, okay? And what you will see is that this gun is probably going to move the most because it is the lightest. So, let's talk about size and weight. Okay. Size and weight makes a big difference. Most women and men too make the mistake of thinking that the smaller gun is going to be the easiest. That's the opposite true. Of these, all the guns that I shot, this is by far the hardest gun to shoot. It takes the most amount of training to learn how to shoot this well. And the reason is because this is a lighter gun, which means that it wants to move around a lot more. You know, because when the bullet goes out the barrel, there's an equal pressure that goes back the other way. Now, because most women think that the smaller gun is going to be easier, right? A lot of times when they go to a gun store to buy a gun, they're going in there with the intention of buying the smallest gun that they can possibly find, okay? Not knowing that it's actually the hardest, okay? The gun store knows this, okay? However, the gun store is basically looking to sell you the thing that you want to buy, right? So they know that most women are going into a gun store to buy the smallest gun that's there, and they're going to sell them the smallest gun that's there. Now, when they come to me for training, well, basically they've just showed up with the hardest gun to shoot, okay? Which takes the most amount of training. And what I will usually do is I will start women off with the rifle, get good with that, and then we'll move to the pistol, okay? So as far as the purpose of these guns, the AR-15 is always your primary self-defense gun, okay? This is the gun that you use in your house to defend you. The pistol is your backup gun, okay? If this fails, you go to your pistol, okay? Now, the secondary purpose of the pistol is, right, because the rifle is a little bit too big to carry around with you every day. So what you do is you carry a pistol because it's smaller and more compact, right? So the purpose of your carry gun is to get you to your house so that you can get your rifle, okay? That's the purpose of your carry gun. Now, between these two guns here, okay, the Glock 17, much bigger than the Glock 43. For me, this gun is a little bit big and awkward to carry around every day. When I carry this at the hip, okay, when I sit down in the car seat, basically the car seat, because it wraps around, it hits the back of this, it becomes uncomfortable. So that is why, okay, my everyday carry gun is the Glock 43, right? It is the small gun. However, I get to practice every day, and I'm really good at shooting this difficult gun. Okay, so that's one of the things to understand, that if you're going to carry a small gun like this, you have to invest a lot more time in getting better with the small gun, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about, first of all, before we even do that, let's talk about some other choices. Let's talk about a revolver, okay? Because a lot of times, this is the gun that people think is the easiest gun. And this is the easiest to load, right? Because you could just drop in the ammunition. It's the easiest to open up, the easiest to load, okay? The gun is not recoil dependent, okay? So with these guns here, if you're not holding this gun firmly, right? Because this gun depends on the recoil to cycle. So you gotta basically hold the bottom of the gun steady so that the slide comes back, all right? So the only part that moves when you shoot this gun is the slide. If the whole gun is moving around, the gun's gonna jam up, okay? So the bottom part of the gun has to stay steady so that the slide comes back all the way. to eject the empty case, go forward, pick up the next round. That is not an issue with the revolver. However, the difficulty that people have with women, particularly have with the revolver, is because it's a double action only. It has a very long, hard trigger pull. And when I tell women to just aim the gun at a target, match up the sights, and squeeze it and keep the targets. Most women are doing this as they squeeze the trigger. The gun's moving around all over the place because they have a really hard time squeezing the trigger and keeping the sights on target. Okay? The other problem with this gun is the sights itself. Right? If you look at these sights, black front sight, black rear sight. For some of you women watching this, watching this information for the first time, in the front you have a front sight post. In the back you have a V. You match it up like that, and you put it underneath the target. So basically you lollipop the target, right? So if that's your target, you go underneath it like that. So when I tell people to match up the sights, put on the target, squeeze the trigger, they're moving the gun all over the place as they're squeezing the trigger. Most, not all women, but most women do not have the finger strength to press that trigger and keep the gun motionless. Okay, so we got the trigger here, and you got the sights. The problem with the sights on this gun is that they're both black, very hard to see, especially in a stressful situation. All the guns that I shoot, all my self-defense guns, all have optics on it. Okay, the optic, basically, it's got a dot. They have a circle with a dot in the center. It makes aiming a lot easier. The problem when you have just iron sights is that there's three things that you're looking at. You got the front sight, you got the rear sight, and then you have the target. So you got three things that need to be matched up, right? You need the three things in a row. You got the rear sight, front sight, and then the target all lined up. And here's the thing, when you're shooting, right, you have to focus on the front sight, not the target, okay? So the way it works out in practicality, in reality, is your focus on the front sight is going to be clear. Your rear sight is blurry. The target over there is going to also be blurry. That's not the natural way to look at things, all right? If that thing over there is scaring me, the natural thing for me to do is look at that target over there. It takes a lot of additional training to be, and a lot of discipline to be able to bring your focus back from the thing that's scaring you to the front sight so that you can hit the thing that's scaring you, okay? Or the thing that's a deadly threat to you, rather, okay? So that's the other thing. That's the thing with the iron sights. It makes it a lot more difficult to learn. When I started putting women on ARs with optics, they were like hitting the targets with the very first shot, okay? And in fact, what I saw is for a while, initially optics were only available on rifles. They were not available on pistols. And what I found is when I met women at the range, they all wanted to shoot rifles. They were not really interested in the pistols because they were just it's so much more difficult to shoot. Once optics on pistols became common, all of a sudden it was like 50-50. They wanted to shoot the rifles, but they also wanted to shoot the pistols. The optic makes all the difference, right? Just being able to look at the target and the dot is on it makes all the difference. And because it was easier for them to shoot, they enjoyed shooting it. They wanted to shoot more. They got better with the pistols, okay? So any guns you buy have to be optic ready. They have to. Now, you're not going to buy the gun with the optic mounted on it. That's something that you buy afterwards, right? And basically, first of all, before you go and you buy a gun, it's kind of like you don't go to a car dealership and show up there and say, hey, what cars do you have to sell me? What car do you think I should buy? You never do that because you know that the car dealer is just going to sell you whatever they got, right? Whatever is profitable for them, right? When you go to a car dealership, you generally go there knowing what you want to buy. You go in there and you're like, okay, I'm here to buy this car. Do you have it, and how much do you want for it, right? And then you can also shop around to other dealerships for that specific car. Same exact thing goes with guns, okay? When you go to a gun store, you say, I'm here to buy this specific gun. Do you have it? How much is it? And then you also check a bunch of other stores. That's how you go about making your gun purchase, okay? As far as guns, basically, you want to stick with the most standard ones, okay? AR-15s and Glocks. Glock MOSs that are optic ready. They're the most common. The other thing is that if they do, first of all, they're very durable, but if they do break, there's lots of parts out there and there's lots of knowledge to fix those guns, okay? So that's why I tell people stick to standard. Your mil-spec AR-15 and your standard Glock MOS that is optic ready, right? So as far as the small guns, like I said, they are very convenient to carry around. But the only purpose to buy this gun is to carry it around, okay? And like I said, it takes a lot more training to get better with this gun. But normally, these are the two. This gun basically gets me to my house so that I can get to these two guns, okay? And this gun being the primary, this gun being the backup gun, okay? Let's talk about, we talked a little bit about the revolver. We said that, number one, trigger pull is very difficult. The sights on this are usually very hard to use. They take a lot more training and practice to get used to using these sights, especially under stressful conditions. So that's a bad choice. So let's talk about shotgun. Okay, shotgun is, especially a pump like this, is the worst choice for anybody. A lot of people associate a shotgun with home defense. Terrible choice. Even people that shoot shotguns regularly, right? Under stress, what they will do is they will short stroke it, right? They're not going to pump this hard enough to eject the empty shell and then pick up the next one, right? And that includes people that are experienced with shotguns. The other thing with this is when you go to reload this, first of all, it has much lower capacity than either of those other guns, okay? And then when you go to reload it, you're reloading one shell at a time. Under stress, even experienced people will drop the shells, okay? When I start inducing stress, when I start putting people under stressful conditions, even people that use the shotgun regularly start dropping shells, okay? So a combination of, it's very easy to short stroke this and jam up the gun, difficult to reload, and it's also very front heavy, right? Because the way this works is you got your barrel over here, you got your tube over here, which contains the shells, right? This is your magazine, right? It's an internal tubular magazine. Well, having this tube under your barrel, especially when it's loaded with shells, and shotgun shells are very heavy, the gun is very front heavy. So this is a terrible gun for women to use. And also, even with birdshot, which is not what I recommend for home defense, but even with birdshot, this recoils a lot. It's a very high recoiling gun, okay? This is not a gun that I can comfortably fire one-handed, right? Like you saw me shoot those other guns. I can't do that comfortably with this gun, okay? Now, one other thing I want to mention. I want to talk about the possibility of over-penetration, or I want to address the possibility of over-penetration with the 5.56 round that goes in an AR-15. So here's the thing. If you look at this barrel over here, you will notice these holes over here, right? And that's because I did a test, okay? Like I said, I'm giving you guys real information that I have seen myself, okay? And I have tested myself. Right, what I did is I lined up 7 of these barrels, and I have a video that I've done on this where I recorded it, and I'll link the video below. I lined up 7 of these barrels 15 feet apart, okay? And what I did is I shot it with a variety of different calibers, okay? So when I shot it with the AR-15, it basically went into 3 barrels, okay? By the 3rd barrel, it stopped, and I was not able to recover the bullet because it's a small, light bullet going really fast. What I found is that the bullet broke up by the time it got into the 3rd barrel, okay? When I shot it with a 9mm, okay, it actually got to 4 barrels, and I was able to recover the bullet intact because the bigger 9mm did not break up. Okay, now that was when I did that. I shot that with a 9mm rifle. When I shot it with the pistol, it got to the 3rd barrel, but so they both went to the 3rd barrel. However, I was able to recover the bullet, the 9mm bullet. I was not able to recover this because it had completely broken up. And that's one of the things that you got to keep in mind with over penetration concerns. Almost all rounds will go through walls, right? So that's something that we have to factor into our self-defense type of situation. So, for example, in my home defense situation, I want to be at the top of my staircase, shooting down the stairs. I got my bad guys in a narrow corridor in the staircase, and I know my bullets are going into the basement, okay? So that is a very good self-defense plan where I know where my bad guys are going to be. I know where my bullets are going to end up. Okay, so what you want to do is you have to kind of consider the reality that bullets do tend to go things, and decide where you're going to position yourself, what direction you want to be shooting in, and where you want your bullets to end up. And especially in a home defense type of situation, we have the advantage that we are able to plan this out in advance. And usually we get some warning, like we hear broken windows or there are riots in the neighborhood, stuff like that. So usually there is a little bit of warning with that, okay? So we get to pick where we want to be, behind the bed, shooting, which room do we want to select to make our stand-in, right? So you got to look at the layout of your house and figure out where you want to be. So as I was saying, with the 5.56, even though, like if I shoot those rims over there, the AR-15 round will penetrate it. However, after it penetrates it, the bullet tends to break up a lot, right? Whereas the 9mm, when it'll hit it, it won't penetrate it, but it'll basically just deflect. Okay, it'll usually bounce down into the ground. So that's the thing to consider with the 5.56. Because a lot of people think that this is going to like go through 10 houses and kill it. It's not going to do that, right? These bullets require a certain amount of spin in order to maintain stability. And the second this touches something like sheetrock, that spinning, that rotation is interrupted. It's changed, so it doesn't have that same rotation, and the bullet becomes very unstable, and it's going to basically destabilize and fall into the ground pretty quickly after that. Okay, I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. We talked about the shotgun. The shotgun's a terrible choice, even for men. Okay, even men have a hard time handling a shotgun under stressful circumstances. They might do really good at the gun range if they're shooting at clay discs, but that's not under stress. Okay, when I introduce stress, it becomes a lot more difficult to use these guns. You want to use the easiest possible gun that you can possibly use, and that's really the reason why the military uses AR-15s. They don't use them because they're extremely powerful guns. They use them because they're really easy guns. One of the things I tell people is when you join the military, right? Basically, you get a box of crayons and an AR-15, right? So that's the level of difficulty of this. And the hardest part of this is basically is the preparation, because basically you got to load your magazine, you got to learn how to lock it open. Okay, put your safety on, put your magazine in, get the round in the chamber. Right now, this gun's ready to go. Okay, so at the point that the gun's already loaded, all right, now there's only because all that's done in advance. All right, the gun is loaded in advance. Now the only thing that I need to do is just basically take off the safety. Right, so basically at that point, all I do is get my dot on target, take the safety off, and I'm ready to pull the trigger. Okay, so all the hard work with this gun is done in advance. At the point where I need to use this gun, all I gotta do is just take the safety off, get the dot on target, take the safety off, and pull the trigger as many times as I need to get the bad guy to stop being bad. Okay, so that's how that works. As far as the handgun, I like Glocks. They do not have safeties. Okay, the safety mechanism on the Glock is the holster. Okay, so this gun basically sits in the holster. The holster protects the trigger guard. This gun cannot be fired. When I get home, right, this gun comes off my belt, and it, the way it is loaded with a round in the chamber, it goes into the safe like that. The next morning, I take this gun off and I put it back on my belt. I do not remove the gun from the holster because the holster is the safety mechanism. Okay, so this gun at all times is either on my body or it's in a safe because it's loaded. Okay, if I need to use the bathroom, I just take this gun. I specifically selected a holster that I know will fit into my pants. Okay, now I can use the bathroom, and then when I'm done, I can take this, put this back on my belt. Okay, and that's it. I'm ready to go. Okay, so that's how that. So all these things have to be thought out in advance. It's not just a matter of knowing which guns you're going to use, what ammunition you're going to use. But you also you also need to have a home defense plan. You need to know where you're going to be. You got to be able to communicate with other people in your house. You have to have a plan for communicating with your lawyers and the police afterwards, or better yet, not communicating with the police. In that type of situation, all you do is you tell the police that, hey, I had to, my life was in danger. I had to defend myself, And at that point, you shut up. You don't talk to them. You don't give any details. And the reason is, let's look at it from this perspective. If a police officer is ever involved in in a shooting, their union tells them not to say anything until they talk to the union lawyers. Okay, so there's a reason for that, is because under stress, people tend to say things that aren't even true sometimes, or they tend to say things out of order. And all of that can be used against you. Okay, so the safest thing to do if you're ever in any type of a self-defense situation, whether it involves guns or not, is to keep your mouth shut and have a lawyer do the talking for you. So all these things this is all part of the self-defense plan. It's not just a question of which gun you're going to have. It's also a question of how you're going to use the gun, where you're going to use the gun, when you're not going to use the gun. Having a lawyer on call. I have prepaid legal service. Okay, I've done other videos on that. So this is all part of the self-defense plan. Okay, so I hope everybody enjoyed this video. And like I said, in the past, by the way, I was recommending the short AR pistol, right? It's got a shorter barrel here. The reason why I like the shorter one is because it's less front heavy, okay? A lot easier to, for women to handle. The problem that I found is that these short barrels are extremely loud, okay? So I think, basically that loudness was a bit of a distraction for women. So what I have found is that with the newer ARs that have the skeleton rails, right? You see how this rail has all these holes in it? That really goes a long way to reducing the weight. And I find that most women are able to comfortably handle this gun with the skeletonized rails that have the less weight up here. And it's also convenient because the women can use it, and also their husbands or boyfriends can also use the same gun because it's long enough that they can get a comfortable grip on this. Okay, so that's the reason why I pulled back from recommending the AR pistols for women. Now I just recommend the standard AR rifles with the skeleton rails, and that's because of the advancements in technology and basically having these rails here that have so much empty space in here that it lightens the weight of the gun. So let me know if you got any questions. Now, basically this video was intended as an informational video. I tell people get training, okay? First of all, get training before you go buy any guns, because you gotta know what you're looking for. Get training. I'm not telling you guys to come specifically to me. I don't care where you go. You might be on the other side of the country, but get training, and the trainer will also help you, select the right guns and the right equipment, and guide you. And further than that, I also advise people, don't just get training from one trainer. Get training from a lot of different people, right? And what's going to happen is initially you may hear some conflicting information where one trainer is telling you this or one trainer. You know what? When you're with a specific trainer, do what they tell you, right? Learn the things that trainer, that instructor has to teach you, right? And then after you've trained with a whole bunch of people, at that point you'll start now gaining enough experience where you can start making your own decision and saying, hey, I like what this guy was saying on this part, but I like what the other person was saying on that part, and you can start piecing things together on your own. But yeah, don't just go get training from one person. Get training from as many different people as possible, and basically just build up a database of information that you can work with, like you do with all other things in your life, right? Generally you don't just get information from one source. You get information from a lot of different sources, and then you piece it together and you make it work for you. So, guns for self-defense is the same thing. And the other thing I'm going to add, one more thing, even though we were talking about self-defense in this video, there's something like more than 500 million guns in the United States. 99.9% of the time, these guns are used for one purpose, and that's for fun, right? For recreational shooting. So one of the things I tell people is, when you go to your training class, don't go there thinking that, hey, I'm here to do the job, right? I'm here to train specifically for self-defense. Go there to have fun, okay? If you go to your self-defense classes or your shooting classes, or if you go there to have fun and enjoy yourself, you're going to learn faster, you're going to get better, you're going to want to keep doing it, and then down the road, when you down the road, if you ever do need to use a gun for self-defense, that skill will also be there. And the analogy I explain to people is, hey, nobody learns to drive a car so they can drive themselves to work, right? The reason why everybody learns to drive a car is they can go out and play with their friends, right? So you learn to drive a car so you can go out and have fun, but then later on you say, hey, the car would also be useful for getting me to work. And then, hey, listen, I'm sick, I'm having an emergency here, I need to get to the hospital. Well, now the car is also useful for an emergency type of situation. So guns are the same way. You learn to shoot guns for fun and have fun with them. And then later on, if an emergency situation does arrive, you have the skills to deal with that as well. So thanks for watching. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. Find me on Odyssey, which is an uncensored platform. That's ODYSEE.com, right? Odyssey.com. And my channel name over there is Pocono Tactical. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll talk to you all soon. Really quickly, I wanted to address the fiction, all right, that a woman is going to be able to take a couple of martial arts classes, or boxing classes, or any hand-to-hand self-defense classes, and be able to defend herself against somebody that is actually trying to hurt her. Okay, don't confuse wrestling with your boyfriend or with your husband with somebody that is actually trying to hurt you. Okay, there's a reason why in combat sports like boxing, wrestling, etc., they put people in different weight classes. Okay, that's because a 200-pound man has a significant advantage over a 160-pound man. Okay, size and strength does matter. Okay, this isn't Hollywood, this is not fiction. We're not looking at Wonder Woman here, right? In reality, a stronger person always has the advantage. Now you can close that gap a little bit with a lot of training. All right. Now, as far as I used to own a gym. All right. I used to teach boxing. I've got videos up of me training women and sparring with them. And I can tell you guys, it was never a competition, right? I had to basically fight, and these were women that trained with me on a regular basis, and I really had to go really easy and light with them. Okay. It takes this is for anybody. This is for a man. Okay, if you are getting, let's say, into boxing or any type of martial arts, it takes a minimum of about 2 years to become competent in any martial art where you're fighting with your hands or with weapons like swords or knives or clubs or anything like that. Okay? It takes a minimum of 2 years of training. With the guns, okay, I can pretty much turn anybody into a marksman with one training session with one of these. Okay, with the pistols it is harder, but with the rifle I can pretty much make just about anybody competent with a rifle. Now, if you don't believe me, okay, it's really simple. Okay, what you do is just go find some local boxing gym. All right, go over there, put on some protective gear, right, so that you don't actually get hurt. Right, put on some protective headgear, put on some gloves. Okay, find one of the guys in the gym and ask them to box with you. Right, ask them to fight with you. Okay, and you will see that you are, you're completely defenseless. Okay, you are completely defenseless. As a smaller woman against a larger man, and even as a man against a larger man. Okay, the bigger man in real life, size matters, right? The bigger man always has the advantage. There's other things, of course, like speed that also count. Training does make a difference, but it takes years to develop skill. Okay, so you can bridge the gap between size. You can bridge the gap between a small person and a larger person with lots of training, but that's what is involved. There's lots of training involved that takes years to develop, and like I said, it takes a minimum of 2 years of weekly training to become competent, in fighting with your fists or fighting with with clubs or knives or similar tools. Okay, so the best, the cheapest, the easiest, the fastest way to gain proficiency in self-defense is with this. Okay, and I'll give you guys another example. For a long time, okay, the bow and arrow was superior to the musket. Okay, the arrows that the Indians used to fire were more accurate than the single shot smooth bore muskets. Right, and not only were they more accurate, but they could fire them a lot faster. The reason why they transitioned to muskets, right, from because they had bows and arrows in Europe. The reason why they made that transition is not because the musket was superior. It was because it is easier, it is faster to train people on the gun as compared to a bow and arrow. Okay, so guns are easier to train people on. Okay, so I hope that addresses that issue. And like I said, if you don't believe me, just go down to your local boxing gym, put on some protective gear, and get in the ring with one of the guys. And they're going to go really light and slow with you and soft on you. And you're going to see that, I mean, there's still no competition, right? It takes years of training to get yourself up to a competitive level when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon.